parfait.
So here we are for our last Italia 90 podcast, the final, West Germany versus Argentina. And before we get into this final, which if you've read anything about, you'll know is sort of universally caned and hated. I don't think that's going to be the case here. We're going to try and talk about it as enjoyable as possible. But lads, I'm getting out in front of it rather than doing this right at the end. I very much enjoy doing these. Meet back here for 94 in 4 years' time.
Yeah, well, forget 94. I'm given how strong Ireland are, I'm looking forward to our 30th anniversary of Euro 92, which I assume we won.
There you go. So 2 years' time. Keep I don't know, if there's any sort of subscription you can do that you can infrequently check back here for this kind of thing, get that on now.
Brush up on your Swedish beforehand.
So here we have got a replay of the 86 World Cup final, and considering all the injuries and the suspensions, West Germany are in really, really good nick. I think I'm right in saying there's only 4 players who would have played in that previous final still in this squad. It's Berthold, Voller, Matthäus and Brehme. The Germans probably look a little bit stronger when you see the likes of Klinsmann coming through in the squad as well. We've already mentioned Argentina are just sort of surviving through games. I mean, I sort of criticised them quite harshly in the third place playoff when we were talking about whether they were in the top echelon of teams. And even for me, I think they've gone really, really well to get through this long, considering Maradona's injury. And you would probably make an argument only for 1 or 2 players apart from Maradona, they wouldn't. And actually, you might make that argument that it's Alortachea and Caniggia amongst those players are 2 of the absolute necessities bar Maradona in the team. Both of them suspended along with Justi for this game. And a lot of the press beforehand, guys, seem to be talking, it seems to be a sort of shared headline that a lot of them have. King or Kaiser doing the rounds that we know Beckenbauer has done after this tournament. But Maradona is now saying this will be his last World Cup, and it's a suggestion it could be his last game for Argentina. I think you could probably say that's him growing wary of the old football life, the pressures that come with it, as we've talked about his Napoli days already sort of starting to catch up with him, and the fishbowl he's living in Napoli, and it's probably felt a bit like that for this World Cup in Italy. Maybe being around Napoli still in this time has just worn him down. I'm going to try my best not to drag this one out, lads, because, I mean, there's lots to talk about in this game, in the fallout. There's a bit at the end that we want to do as well on looking back over the whole tournament. But I'm going to say from the start, Argentina, I'm pretty sure, have 1 chance. So I will do my best to talk about this game and give you a run through the match as we have every other. But the level of Argentina's spoiling tactics that have gone on here, essentially Argentina are a little bit like I criticised Colombia for earlier in the tournament, actually. They've completely just nullified, and they're hoping basically Maradona can do something when the Germans make an error. The Germans don't make an error. So at some point, Argentina are going to crack. Voller has the first real big chance of the game. A beautiful cross from Klinsmann from a free kick is just out of his reach, and he gets his foot on it, but it flies over. And this is the beginning of somewhat torturous hour and a half for Rudi Voller, where if you could take that chance there, cross in, lovely cross, he just is out of reach for it. Just sort of multiply that by about 6, and you've got Rudi Voller's game here down. He has a bit of a mare, to be honest. Argentina are so far back, they're so deep in the pitch that there's times you're looking at the likes of Brehme again, what do we call him? Our left adventurer or something to that. I mean, no better game for that to be true. He picks the ball up in the left back area, so essentially runs unchallenged for about 40 yards, and then makes a cross again, nearly finds Voller, but he gets his feet all wrong. Maradona's 1 chance comes, I think it's just at the end of the first half. At this point, the commentators are talking about how much of a travesty it would have been had Maradona scored. I mean, that tells you everything about it. The commentators are ready to cane him in case it goes in. It's a looping free kick. It goes over the wall, doesn't get anywhere near Ilgner. And that's it. Second half is pretty much the same. Lidvarsky running down the left-hand side. Apparently Argentina haven't got anyone on the right-hand side of the pitch at all. Lidvarsky runs straight up that way. He then cuts inside and dribbles past 2 Argentinians. I suppose just for the fun of it. It seems like he hasn't dribbled past anyone in a while. He cuts inside and just hits it the wrong side of the post. Berthold then has a header flashed over from another Klinsmann free kick. Again, just out of his reach. It seems like if those crosses were just a little bit more accurate, Germany would be maybe 1 or 2 up. Standout moment of the game probably comes in a fairly bizarre incident. It kind of reminds me, Turlock, of the third place playoff incident where you mentioned Chilton coming out and possibly fouling. There's a deep cross that comes in and finds Augenthaler. He looks offside at this point as well, which kind of goes in with the Baggio thing as well. But he's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. He essentially fails to get a shot away. I don't know why he doesn't. He should really hit a goalward, considering the sort of half chances that have been in this game. But he goes to go around Goicoechea, who comes to collect. It looks a little bit of a dive, I must say. I don't know if you guys agree.
Yeah, it certainly didn't look like a clear-cut penalty to me.
It's a little bit iffy. Would have been very, very harsh to end it, I thought, on a penalty like that for Goicoechea. And bizarrely, when the penalty isn't given, one of the Argentinian defenders nearly whacks it into his own net. I think it's Lorenzo. There's someone on the line.
Eamon Dunphy's favourite player.
Yeah, but essentially he kicks it directly back. Like, so there's nearly a penalty. At this point, Argentina just go mental, try and kick it in their own net, and it's cleared off the line. It really is one of the stranger incidents I've seen in a tournament full of this kind of thing. The significant introduction then of Pedro Monzon has to be spoken about at this point. He's barely on the pitch, I think about 10-15 minutes when Klinsmann is charging down the right-hand side with Voller and Litvarsky and an absolute deluge of Argentinians in the middle. Probably just stay with him. Monzon instead sort of lunges in as Klinsmann is sort of running towards the byline to cross into these guys. Monzon fouls him all right. On first glance, you're thinking that looks a yellow. But our old friend, referee Condensi Mendes, sends him off for the first ever red card in a World Cup final. And watching it back, I mean, Monzon throws his whole body into it. It's a scandalous attempt for a tackle.
Yeah, it's ridiculous simulation, as we'd call it these days. It's a kind of full-body jackknife. I would almost, just give a yellow on principle for that.
I think we've kind of picked out from this referee's previous games that he loves a big decision and being in the middle of a big decision. Yeah, I hate saying that about refs because people always say managers are always criticising refs for being in the centre of attention. But I think in this case, in one of the few cases, I think it's completely justified.
Well, look at the way he awards the red card. He does it's like a Mexican wave that starts at his shins and works its way up right through his spine. He shivers that red card out. He can't wait.
It's like, you ever see that episode of Spaced where the Simon Pegg comedy where they go to a rave club and Mike gets up on the stage and starts doing all these military kind of poses to the A-Team music. It reminds me of that. It's just all right angles all over the place.
Well, Argentinians are protesting absolutely furiously and aggressively because I think they already know they're up against it and they're thinking one wrong decision against us and we're done, and they're probably thinking that's come. 10 minutes later, they lose their heads again though. Lothar Matthäus picks it up on the halfway line. He charges straight at the heart of the Argentinian defence. He draws one player out. Voller makes a run inside. Matthäus feeds him the ball and Voller is brought down with just 7 minutes left in the game. Am I right in saying straight up this is a dive by Rudi Voller?
It's a dive. I think I don't know whether Sensini's unlucky here, but I think the contact is possibly with the upper body rather than with the leg.
I think it's a good tackle though, isn't it? He gets the ball.
No,
I'm not sure he gets the ball.
It's a clumsy tackle at best because he stretches essentially.
I think he nudges it though.
Oh, I don't know. I think one of his legs is behind Voller. One of them is wrapping around him. He might get a tone at some point, but he's certainly come... I wouldn't say he's come through the player, but he's certainly basically wrapped his entire body around Rudi Voller nearly to get there.
Bit of a John Aldridge, is it?
Yeah. Well, it's very, very clumsy. I'm not sure it's quite as aggro as all those, but
it's givable.
7 minutes left. Penalty, down a man. It's a disaster really for Argentina. They're furious at this. The penalty is delayed about 2 or 3 minutes as they try and. Maradona argues with him and I think Troglio gets booked as well. But Brehme steps up, calm as you like.
Sorry, who? Who takes it?
You want me to use
What's his name?
His full title, is it?
Linksabenteurer.
Linksabenteurer. Brehme steps up, slots it in very, very easily. And I think at that point, we know that's going to be it. Argentina have had one shot, it's an awful free kick. We've only time for one more red card, though. Zotti essentially clotheslines Olaf when he's trying to recover the ball in this sort of mad dash to try and recover the ball for chances that they won't create anyway. He's absolutely furious, and essentially what happens is Argentinians go on to assault the referee. If you listen to the BBC commentary for the last 10 to 15 minutes of this game, and we've talked about John Motson a good bit here, but see how many times John Motson saying Maradona or one of the other Argentinian players are booked. I was counting about 7 yellow cards for Maradona by the end of this. Motson is just like, oh, I think he's been booked,
Who was that? Remember years ago, George Hamilton kept calling...
Bentner,
yeah. Every Rosenborg player was Bentner.
But we get to the last few minutes and you're seeing the clock tick down. You're going, right, Grant, just blow this up at the 90. This has been an absolute disaster. No, good solid, 7 minutes of extra time, or it certainly felt like that. The game goes on and I've no idea. I know he's basically adding on.
It was about 3 minutes for the penalty here. 4.
Yeah, but oh my God, come on though. Like, there's a couple of half chances. I mean, Klinsmann should probably score for Germany after this point because they are playing against 9 men, and any time they break, you're thinking Germany should just score. They keep lashing it over the bar. It ultimately whistles blown. Look, there's been assaults on the referee. The Argentinians have lost the plot. Maradona's bawling his eyes out. The Italian crowd are probably happy to see him ugly cry. The Germans celebrate, and it's probably well enough deserved by the Germany team. But I think it's not really the final we deserved, having put all this work in on this podcast. It's not the final we were hoping to sign off with, you know.
Zotti on Kohler. This is disgraceful by Adolf. The second sending off. Zotti is dismissed. Oh, and I think the referee has been not struck, but certainly. But oh, look at this. The referee has been physically manhandled by 4 players. And if Argentina continue this, FIFA will have to ban them from the next World Cup, surely. You can't have this in the final. The yellow card to Maradona. And the Argentines barge the referee, and there's going to be cards out here. Yellow immediately, I think, for Troglio, 21. Maradona in the thick of it, and the goalkeeper. And they've lost their heads completely. And still Maradona pursues the argument. And another booking, I think, almost certainly. It may even have been Maradona.
It's interesting listening to the BBC commentary that John Motson is apoplectic for most of the second half. He's talking about Argentina being such a disgrace that they should be banned from the next World Cup, which I think is over the top. Like, you think the amount of extra time they've played, the fact that they're not really, they're not. Maybe Germany in 2002 are probably a good example of a team that didn't really deserve to reach the final, but you can't really begrudge them getting there because they were so dogged and determined. So,
to be fair to Motty, though, I think he's mostly saying that in sort of retaliation to the fact that Argentinian players, like they did in the Cameroon game, so this isn't the first time they've done it, they're just charging into the referee. Like, 1 or 2 are in his face. It's a tactic. It's a dirty tactic on their part because 1 or 2 are right up in his face, and some guy comes from nowhere, like right out the back, slams into the referee and then walks off. So he can't be booked or caught, basically. But it is filthy, like.
It's the whole Alex Ferguson thing complaining about. I think it was they played Bayern in a European Cup quarter-final or something. And he's complaining about all the German players surrounding the referee, which has been their tactic ever since Roy Keane got there, to surround the referee anytime anything happens.
What are your thoughts, Turlock, on this then? Obviously, you'd have watched the final. Do you remember it being god-awful?
Yeah, I mean, when the commentators are saying that every 30 seconds, you can't really draw any other conclusion. I think it might be my fault, actually, because I remember doing a crude painting of the final the day before, which was of West Germany being awarded a penalty. So I think I don't know, what was that terrible film with Nicolas Cage about that child that could foresee the future and make it happen? I think I might have willed this one into existence somehow, but it was deeply forgettable, and that was kind of the chatter at the time. But also, I don't think anyone anyone begrudged West Germany the victory or felt that they were not by far and away the best team in the competition. And they did, in fairness, try to play against a team that had no interest in playing. They could have won this by, I think, a very handsome margin.
To be fair, there is one person who wasn't so high on West Germany, Paddy Agnew, who I think it's probably a theme in this World Cup. We talked about saints and sinners. Or Paddy Agnew, the Irish Times at the time, religious correspondent in the Vatican, did a report on the final and said, in the end, Italia 90 got the final it perhaps did not deserve. This was a dreadful match played by one average side, West Germany, against a totally negative one, in which, were it not for the correct intervention of referee Mendez Codesal of Mexico in awarding a penalty kick, first compliment I think he's gotten, we would probably never have seen a goal in normal play. So that goes completely against maybe everything Turlock is saying, but I think maybe Turlock has a more enlightened view than our Vatican correspondent.
Yeah. Well, in fairness to Paddy, he was the Italian correspondent of the Irish Times for years and a regular contributor on footballing matters.
Can I just say on that though, how on earth is he describing a Germany side with Voller, Klinsmann, Matthäus, Brehme as an average side? I mean,
I think he'd reported on the Italy or the West Germany-Czechoslovakia game and been very unimpressed by West Germany, which was another game they completely dominated and only won with a penalty. So yeah, I don't know who pissed in his chips that particular morning, but
I think of all the teams in the tournament that tried to play, I'd say Cameroon, Yugoslavia, West Germany, and Argentina.
I wouldn't argue. Yeah,
final. I probably wouldn't have Argentina there, given this. They're not getting any. They're not getting any credit after this game, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think a lot of that's coming from the British media, who wouldn't give them credit if they won 17-0 and played no goalkeeper, fly goalkeeper and 6 strikers.
They were a disgrace in this game, in fairness. But yeah, a lot of that was based on prejudice.
Can I float out a little conspiracy theory? This is Mexico's revenge for not being involved, for being kicked out of this World Cup. They've sent this referee in to sink it.
Codesal was a hate figure in Argentina for decades afterwards, may still be. I had an Argentinian friend who would refer to any bad refereeing decision as a Codesal, or any refereeing scandal, or any perceived stitch-up as a Codesal, well into the 21st century. So yeah, he didn't escape opprobrium for this. But again, I think it's possibly more to do with his manner than anything else, the emphatic nature of his gestures. We've spoken about how referee Valente was loathed in Ireland and still is for the Italy game, because no one's bothered to go back and actually look at it and see that he had a very good game. So I don't know if that does that kind of taint the fact that he refereed a World Cup final and that he got so much grief for it.
Yeah, I suppose Howard Webb got a bit of grief for him. His the 2006 final. So maybe it's just a thing that happened. Or 2010, sorry.
Yeah, it's fair to say Codesal really webbed that final, you know.
To be fair, in general, kind of, think back to the Italians. How many World Cup exits have they blamed on referees? Whether it's 2002, what was it, the Panaman referee who they're still convinced screwed them over in favour of South Korea, and he actually got done for match fixing a couple of years later.
Shame to finish on a bit of a damp squib like that, but I think it's a tournament overall we've enjoyed. Well, where do we start? We do a bit of team of the tournament. I think Turlock, you gave us the team of the tournament here. You might run through it for us actually, just before we talk about it.
Yeah, there's actually a few conflicting teams of the tournament. There was one that was issued at the time by the press, and there's one that's gone down in the annals as the official team of the tournament, all-star team via FIFA. So that is a team that somehow contains 2 goalkeepers, which I presume was the result of a tied vote. But the goalkeepers are Goicoechea and Conejo of Costa Rica, who did have an excellent tournament, but only played 3 games because he didn't play in their second round exit. So that seems a bit of an eccentric call. We were talking about whether Paki Bonner had a shout, but given that his only mistake knocked his team out of the tournament, I think that probably rules him out.
Django would be the obvious choice, wouldn't he? 1 goal conceded in regular tournament play.
Yeah, a bit harsh on him, but he's now free to head off to Ibiza. Our defenders, there's only 3 defenders in the side, and 2 of them are fullbacks, really. Brehme, Maldini and Baresi. It always annoys me when these all-star teams pick completely unbalanced lineups that will get beaten by any professional team just by virtue of the fact that they don't have a fullback or they don't have a defensive midfielder.
Well, Maldini was centre half for most of this tournament.
He was, yeah, but he was, and he would return to that position in later years as well.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't think that's a particularly stable back three. Anyway, the midfield is 4 playmakers: Diego Maradona, Lothar Matthäus, Dragan Stojkovic, and Paul Gascoigne. Which, given that Bobby Robson used to say that you needed 2 balls in training, 1 for Gaza and 1 for everyone else, I don't know how many balls this team would need. Up top, 3 strikers: Schillaci, Roger Milla, and Jurgen Klinsmann. So yeah, very unbalanced 11. Who's unlucky to miss out there?
It's a bit of a championship manager team, I think.
I can't say I disagree with you. I'm happy to see Mia in there. I'd have been annoyed if Roger Mia hadn't been left out.
I'm glad Stojkovic is there as well, because I don't think he gets the recognition that he deserves.
It's missing Shifo.
Shifo was in the journalists team, but again, he went out in the second round.
Paul McGrath.
I think Paul McGrath would have a shout in that team.
Yeah. I think if Ireland got around further, he'd be in it.
I'll tell you what, if you fit McGrath behind that 4 playmaker midfield, he'll do a job for you.
There's no Italians in that midfield, so that kind of tells its own story.
Yeah, I think maybe Giannini and Donadoni might have been close, but yeah, it's notable that like Hadji isn't there. So when you think we're talking about a team that already has, I mean, Matthäus, I don't know if, strictly a classical playmaker. He certainly made a lot of the West Germans' plays, but could also play deeper. But yeah, if you think that midfield of Maradona, Matthäus, Stojkovic, Gascoigne is missing Shifo, is missing Hadji. I mean, were there kind of 6 equivalent creative players at any recent World Cup?
To be fair, Hadji is similar. They only played 3 games.
I think, yeah, there was a hell of a lot of quality at this World Cup in terms of players who were creative on the ball. So again, another maybe it does need to be looked at and remembered a bit differently from the kind of sterile snooze fest that it was remembered as for many years.
It's interesting that it's not overloaded with Italian or Argentinian players, considering there were 2 of the one finalist and 1 semi-finalist.
It should be remembered as well that you still have Baggio to emerge, and of course Sheridan, who never really got all of that much of a look in. So there's plenty of creative talent that will have more tournaments to come.
I know who'd make Ronald Koeman's team anyway.
Yeah, as I said, in 4 years down the line, we'll pick this up and we'll see how Sheridan gets on in the USA '94. So looking forward to that. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure to cover this for 25 podcasts with you. I hope you at home enjoyed it. I don't know if we'll manage to make it to another 4 years, but hopefully we'll be able to do a bit more of this kind of stuff in the future. So if you did enjoy it, please do get in touch. And thank you very much for listening.
Schillaci! This is Maradona, and he gets the ball through. Can he just score?
To Motty against Bonner. Yeah, fantastic! I said it to start. Ciao Roma, buongiorno Roma. You are on.
And there it is. West Germany win the World Cup for the 3rd time. They take the championship away from Argentina.